Alright guys, quick recap of what happened during the first part of the Baterp. The Eugene faction deployed their models. The Ariana deployed on their side of the table. And with 6 regular orders at their disposal to use, the Celestial Guard moved all the way over, through here, and to this point right here. The Celestial Guard then fired upon the Lion Kazakh, and the Lion Kazakh, even though he was hit, saved it with an armor save. And now we're into part 2. Even though the Lion Kazakh did not take a wound, because he was hit by the Spitfire, he must take a guts check, which is his willpower skill of 13. He has to roll that or less. Let me show you. He rolls a 9. So he can choose to stay there. The other options that the model would have would be to move at half his distance away from that spot in order to get out of line of fire from the Celestial Guard. And he could choose to fail this in order to accomplish this, but the Ariana player realizes that the Eugene player still has another order. He can spin around and be able to fire at both of these guys out of cover if he does not keep that stance. So he decides to leave the Lion Kazakh there. The Eugene player has already spent 5 orders and only has 1 more order that he can spend on the Celestial Guard. Remember, the Celestial Guard is not his lieutenant, so he cannot use the lieutenant order on the Celestial Guard. With the Eugene last order, the Celestial Guard will spend a full order laying down a suppressive fire lane, allowing him to shoot at the Lion Kazakh, but also it provides him the ability to have his complete burst of his Spitfire, which is 4 shots, should this Lion Kazakh decide to approach. When you spend a full order to lay down a suppressive fire lane, I've typically seen people identify it with 2 20-sided dice. I like to have a use for those pesky 6-sided dice that you don't need anymore when you're playing Infinity. And you do get to hit on the turn that you lay down the suppressive fire. So since the Lion Kazakh is in line of fire of the Celestial Guard, he still gets to roll at that point in time. The number the Celestial Guard has to use to hit the Lion Kazakh hasn't changed. He starts off with his BS of 11. We take the measurement of the model. We see it's about 6.5 inches. With his Spitfire, he gets a +3 to hit. The Lion Kazakh is behind cover though, so he gets a -3 to hit for that reason. So the Celestial Guard is looking for 11s to hit. The Lion Kazakh has decided to change his mind, and instead of trying to hit on an 8 or less, he has decided to dodge using his pH value. This is still classified as a face-to-face roll, and if the Lion Kazakh rolls a number higher than the Celestial Guard but under his pH, none of the shots that the Celestial Guard will fire will have any effect. Let's take a look at what the numbers are. Okay, in this case, the Celestial Guard rolls a 3, 8, 8, 9, all 4 hit. The Lion Kazakh rolls an 18. This means that he is unable to dodge and he must take 4 armor saves. The damage rating of the Spitfire is strength 14. The Lion Kazakh has 1 armor and he has a +3 modifier because he is behind cover. So the Lion Kazakh must roll 11s or higher, so that when added to 4, it gets to 15, the number higher than the damage value of the Spitfire. And in this case, he succeeds on 2 armor saves, the 12 and the 16, but the 5 and the 4 will both fail. And the Lion Kazakh goes first to unconscious and then to dead. There may be some scenario types where a dead model should be left in play just because it might be an objective for your opposing force, but in this case it's not, and since it went to negative wounds, we go ahead and remove it from the field of play. That concludes the Eugene turn. The Eugene player does not want to utilize his lieutenant order, therefore identifying which model is his lieutenant. The suppressive fire lane that the Celestial Guard setup is still in effect until the Eugene player's next turn, and now it is Ariana's turn. The first thing the Ariana player will do is count out the orders that the player has for this turn. Lieutenant is still alive. That's one regular order, veteran Kazakh, the Highlander Grey, another line Kazakh. What about the Chaucer model that is deployed in camouflage? According to the Army list, Chaucers provide a regular order, and even though the model is deployed in camouflage, Ariana still gets that order added to their pool. There are special rules that govern deploying in TO camouflage, but those will come in Series 2 of the Infinity tutorial. All of the orders in the Ariana Force are regular, so we have 5 regular orders and, again, the Lieutenant order to spend. One of the first things the Ariana player wants to do is get rid of that Celestial Guard, but how does he go about doing it? If he approaches directly at the model, of course he's going to be dealing with getting a full Spitfire burst. So let's take a look at how the Ariana player might handle this. The Ariana player takes his first order and spends it to move the line Kazakh around the other side of the Celestial Guard. The Eugene player then must make sure that they have no AROs to the model that has been moved. In this case, the answer is no. Having declared that the line Kazakh will move up through this terrain in order to flank the Celestial Guard, the line Kazakh is within 8 inches of the Celestial Guard, so the Celestial Guard can choose to turn and face. If he does so, it removes his suppressive fire lane, but it will also mean that if in the next order the line Kazakh can get around and fire, he will at least have an ARO to defend himself either through dodging or firing back. At this point, the Celestial Guard decides to let go of his suppressive fire lane, and he turns to face in the... Again, once the Celestial Guard has changed facing, the suppressive fire is gone, and instead of having the line Kazakh deal with that ARO, the Ariana player decides to spend his next order to move his Highlander Grey to flank the Celestial Guard. This is one of the problems in Infinity with running a model way away from its fire support. Because right now, the Celestial Guard was able to take out an order from Ariana, but there's no one around that can help defend him against someone else attacking. So, having spent the second order, the Ariana player decides to move the Highlander Grey model. Highlander Grey moves at 4-4. That's the first part of his short order. Again, you should always ask and check to make sure that there is no Eugene player that has a line of sight or line of fire to the model that moved. But in this case, the answer is no. So the Highlander Grey moves again. Now, at this point, the Highlander model still cannot see the Celestial Guard, and the distance between the models is substantial enough that the Celestial Guard can't just sense and turn to face the incoming Highlander Grey model. Spending their third order, Ariana moves the Highlander Grey model again, this time into cover, directly behind the Celestial Guard, and he's going to fire his 2 light shotguns. The way that light shotguns work is that you measure the distance between the attacking and the defending model, and once the model is hit, you actually utilize a small blast template. So any models that would be beyond this particular model would be hit with the shrapnel from the shotgun, and it extends out from the player that is firing. Just by having the model move not to here but to here, the Celestial Guard is no longer covered by the wall, so the Celestial Guard will get no cover bonuses. The ballistic skill of the Highlander Grey is a 13. The distance that he's firing is about 10.5 inches. The light shotgun is in its medium range and there's no modifiers to hit. So the Highlander Grey is looking for 13s. And he rolls a 13, a 9, a 16, and a 20. The 16 and the 20 do not hit. The 13 that's rolled is a critical hit. When you roll the exact number that you're looking for, it's classified as a critical hit, and in that instance, the model gets no armor save. So immediately, the Celestial Guard is down to 0 wounds and is unconscious, but he also has another wound that he has to roll and save. Light shotguns have a damage of 13. The Celestial Guard has 1 armor, which means the Celestial Guard must roll a 13 in order to exceed the light shotgun's damage rating. He rolls an 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. It does not exceed the 13 of the shotgun, and the Celestial Guard is dead. Something happens to the Highlander Grey when he's killed his first model. And that is that the Highlander Grey was originally frenzy. Since he's killed his first model, he is now impetuous, and we go ahead and mark that to remind us that at the beginning of the next Ariana turn, he must move directly towards the nearest Yujing enemy. Ariana has 2 orders left. With the first order, they've decided that they're going to move their Chaucer, who is currently camouflaged. The Chaucer's movement is a 4/4. Having used his first short movement skill to move here, the Chaucer then drops a mine directly at his feet. When deploying a mine, it's a short skill, and it does reveal the camouflage model. Normally you would just put down a camouflage marker for the mine, but for the tutorial I wanted it to be very clear what it is. So I went ahead and put a mine marker. So let's pretend the Yujing player sees a camo marker where the mine marker is placed. Using the last order in Ariadna, the Chaucer decides to go back into camouflage. To become camouflaged again, it takes a full order, and your opponent must not have any line of fire to the model that is recloaking into camouflage. And that is the end of the Ariana turn. Next up, we'll start with Yujing turn 2.